Hello and good morning to all joining us via Zoom and our Facebook live stream. Welcome to the Center for Enlightenment's exploration of the spiritual teachings, Jewels from Jane Elizabeth. Each Sunday will be a free-flowing adventure with teachings by Jane Elizabeth Hart, facilitated by Certified Center for Enlightenment teachers. We will be working from the self-study lessons found on our website at cfenlightenment.org. Today we continue the self-study lesson titled Observer Self. Our topic is Your Observer Self Sets You Free. Greg Brett will be the facilitator for this lesson. Greg is a certified teacher for the Center for Enlightenment and longtime student of Jane Hart, studying with her for over 30 years. Jane is the author of Spiritual Power Tools, Support for Your Soul, master teacher and founder of the Center for Enlightenment. Today's course will be live streamed via Facebook. A recording will be sent out with the weekly reflections so you can access it anytime. For those new to this format, your chat icon is located at the bottom of your screen. Just click to view. If you have any technical questions, please reach out to the host or co-host via the chat room. In addition to the Sunday courses, there will be a question and answer discussion on Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern. A link for these sessions will also be posted in the chat room. If you are in need of prayer support, please contact us at cfenlightenment.org or just type centerforenlightenment.com. We are active on Facebook and Twitter. Come check us out, share your thoughts, reflections, and experiences. It will also be a great support to like the postings that resonate with you. We also invite you to visit our website at cfenlightenment.org. There you will find additional self-study lessons, talks, videos, or you can search for specific topics to support your expansion in consciousness. So let's just release all of our thoughts prior to this moment, and let's begin our journey with the prescription for spiritual alignment.
Welcome. Let's move into this time that we share together with the prescription for spiritual alignment. We are aligned with the presence of God within. We are protected by God's love, wisdom, knowledge, and grace. The God consciousness within helps us discover more about who we are. Thank you, God, for the gift of spiritual intuition. Thank you, God, for aligning our conscious, subconscious, and superconscious mind. We rest easily in this presence. Thank you. Amen. Well, how do we activate our observer self so it can set us free? What's the step that we need to take in order to make this observer self, which is always here, has always been here, it's an aspect of our beingness, it's truly our higher self. How do we get this higher aspect of beingness active in our lives? It's almost like it's dormant, hidden behind the veils of the ego, but it's always there. So how do we lift the veil? How do we raise our consciousness to a level where we can access this observer self? Well, the first thing we have to do is just ask ourselves, what am I feeling? What am I thinking? Often we go through the day unconsciously. Often the day just goes by and we don't even realize what we've done with it. The most beneficial thing that we can do with our day is to be in our observer self and to use each and every situation that comes up, every situation at hand, to move us into a greater and greater awareness. We talk about becoming more conscious, raising our consciousness. Well, what is consciousness other than being aware? It's awareness. And we can start at the most basic level. What am I feeling right now? What am I thinking right now? Actually making the decision to observe yourself and making a conscious effort to observe yourself will open up the channel for that observer self to come forth. It will call forth that potential power and energy. You know, there's two kinds of energy, two kinds of power in the universe, according to scientists. There's potential energy and there's kinetic energy. Potential energy is latent. It's like your Lamborghini in your driveway. It's got a lot of potential energy, but it's not going anywhere. Once you get in behind the wheel, it becomes kinetic energy, energy that is being expressed, power that is being utilized. And so your observer self is in potential, has always been in potential, but you can activate it, get it out of the driveway, and take a few laps with it. When you activate your observer self, you make the decision that you want to experience more of who you are. In fact, your observer self is the real of you. It is the real aspect of who you are. And as you practice, just gently being aware of, what am I feeling? What am I thinking? Over time, it will become more and more automatic to become a part of you. It'll just be humming in the background, and not always even in the background. Your observer self will be more and more readily accessible to your conscious awareness. Now, when you notice in your observer self that you're in a certain consciousness, you're feeling certain feelings, just ask yourself, well, what is the feeling I'm having right now? And what's going on around me? What am I thinking? And why am I thinking it? And even take it another level further and ask yourself, why am I judging things? What is going on with me? You know, there's two ways that you can use this observer self. The first way is that when you have a crisis, when it's convenient for you, um, for a few minutes after a lesson like this. But then there's another way to use your observer self. You can make your active observer self a 24/7 experience of your consciousness every day of your life. But it takes practice, and you're not going to do it all at once. But as you build this spiritual muscle, and that's what Jane calls the observer self, the spiritual muscle of your consciousness, you will find that you can understand and change your behaviors, change your consciousness much more effectively than if you just take your observer self off the shelf in a time of crisis or difficulty. So become your observer self and watch yourself in action. Jane has shared many times about seeing yourself as if you were in a play or a movie. You're the director and you're watching the actor, that's your ego, your personality self, on the screen. And just as in a play or a movie, it's happening, it's apparent, but it isn't real. It isn't actual reality. It is just a play, it is just a movie. And you, the director, are in charge of it. Now, the purpose of it is to unfold in your spiritual consciousness and evolve into not only having an observer self, but being in that observer self 24/7. And we call that higher consciousness, Christ consciousness, being enlightened, being illumined, whatever you want to call it, the Atman, Buddha nature, higher self, whatever you want to call it. This is being in your observer self all the time, because in reality, the observer self is simply an activity of your higher self. It's an action of your Christ consciousness or your Buddha nature or your enlightened self. And as you move more and more with your observer self, you are working towards your greater and greater awareness and consciousness leading to enlightenment. So create some detachment from your life and exercise this observer self by pretending like you're watching a film. You're the director of the film. You're watching the actor play his part, her part, and then you can journal out what you notice. And when you're in the middle of your emotions and you're kind of caught up in it, just stop for a moment. Just stop, back up. And you can do that by asking, what am I feeling right now? What is really going on? And ask the question, what's the pattern going on here in my life? How's this a repeating pattern in my life? And what kind of patterns can we notice in our lives? Well, Those patterns are buried in your subconscious mind, and they reveal themselves through your feelings and emotions. Your feelings, your emotions are the access points through which you gain awareness of what's going on in the subconscious mind. And there are different kinds of emotional pain, uh, difficulties like self-pity and depression, sadness, fear, anger, jealousy, guilt. All of these feelings, once we consciously observe and we identify them, we begin the process. And then we can consciously participate in dissolving our emotions by asking, what's going on that's causing me to feel this way? How's this a pattern? What's my soul showing me about this right now? And sometimes I just find myself saying, show me what's going on. I don't see it. In fact, even if I say I'm resistant to it right now, I remember when I was going through something and I felt very self-righteous, and I knew somewhere within myself that that was not where I wanted to be. So I said, right now I feel self-righteous. Right now I want to justify myself. And right now there's a part of me that doesn't want to know, but I really want to know. Show me. And I'll tell you what, within 10 minutes, I started to see the patterns in my own consciousness that I needed to let go of. So the action that we're going to take this week is to identify our emotional, our feelings, our emotional patterns, and the behaviors that come forth from those patterns, and then to forgive ourselves. And forgiveness is, I guess it's an abstract term. What does it mean to forgive? If I feel an emotion and it's tied to some kind of a pattern of thinking, how do I forgive it? Well, putting it down on paper is the first step. Becoming aware of it and objectifying it, stepping back and seeing it as a play, begins the process of dissolving it. And remind yourself that you have the power within yourself to dissolve any problem. Any problem in your consciousness, the power is in you to dissolve it. And your awareness ultimately is what dissolves it. So journal about the problem and release it. Realize that you have the power to lift that negative pattern up into the light. And so you can release that negative pattern in your life. Being in your observer self begins the process that actually allows you to erase karma. Because I'm going to move this up to a little higher level here. Everything I've been talking about up till now has been all about karma. Because all those feelings, those patterns, those thoughts, those beliefs, those behaviors, it's all part of your karma within your subconscious mind. And that karma that you've been carrying with you through many lifetimes and throughout this lifetime, that karma is ready to be revealed and released. And you release these karmic patterns one at a time. I've shared many times the ball of karma, the different rubber bands around that ball of karma. And once you release one, it loosens up another one, and you release another one. And this is the process of healing your soul. This is the process of forgiving all the patterns and releasing everything that's kept you in bondage to your limited self. But the first things you got to do is to see what's there to forgive. The first thing your observer self shows you is what's really there for you to journal out, to use the 5 journaling questions in the journaling chapter of Spiritual Power Tools. And for the juicy ones, and I do this about once a week at least, take the ones that just journaling out the 5 questions, there's still some lingering residue there. Take your spiritual 7-step, the power tool, that the 7 steps for successful life transitions that's found towards the back of the spiritual power tools, and journal out the questions. And then go to the website and centerforenlightenment.com, cfenlightenment.org, whichever one you want to access. And then at the top on that bar, you'll notice it says 7 steps. Click on that, scroll down, and you'll see a meditation that Jane recorded in the 1990s. It's the best meditation I've ever heard recorded. And after you do your journaling of the 7 steps using the questions in the book, you can then take the 7 steps meditation and help Jane support you in moving this old toxic karmic energy up the 7 steps and out and into the sunlight, into the light of infinite consciousness. First, you have to see what's there, and then you do the work of forgiveness, which is best done with journaling, the journaling questions, and ultimately, if it's a deep one, the 7 steps. What you do in this process is you discover the relationship between yourself, karma, and forgiveness. This is the relationship that you're uncovering with your journaling between yourself and karma and forgiveness. And this is the key to setting yourself free from all these limitations, all these limiting beliefs that are truly karmic, that are lodged in your subconscious mind. And by doing this, what you're doing is really assisting yourself in the evolution of your soul. By becoming the active observer of yourself, you are identifying what you need to change it, but you can't change anything unless you can see what needs to be changed. This process of using your observer self is your support system. Your observer self, in a sense, is watching over you. It is your guardian system, and it watches over the personality self and reveals and then helps you to release that which isn't working for you. And when it's not working for you, why hold on to it? So why not just take responsibility for that aspect of yourself and take those spiritual steps? And some of them are huge spiritual steps that you could take using this. And this will aid you and move you forward in your journey of self-discovery. Forgiving another person can lead you to forgiving yourself. And as you use every interaction that you have that's painful and difficult with another person, you can forgive that other person, but then it leads you to an aspect of your own being that's hidden in your own subconscious that you can forgive so that you can have greater freedom within yourself. By looking at what's really going on and stepping back and seeing yourself and other people as actors in the play of your life, you can look at yourself more objectively and you can learn something new about yourself. Every day, remind yourself as you get out of bed, I'm going to be in my observer self today. Put that observer self into your satchel, your purse, your backpack, whatever you carry with you that day, your briefcase, your paper bag, I don't care what you call it. Whatever it is, take your observer self with you every day, each and every day, and ask for some help in having it activated. I want to be in my observer self today, God. I want this strengthened. Give me some help here. And realize that meditation every day, the time that you spend strengthening your contact between yourself and your observer self, which is what occurs during meditation, is making your observer self stronger and stronger. But this means you have the courage to embrace the challenges that are there each day. Every day is a new opportunity to embrace the challenges and the emotions that arise with those challenges. And emotions can push you off center when you're not aware of it. You think you're doing fine, and then somebody pushes your button. You'll see something in the news, or somebody will cut you off, or someone will slight you in some perceived way. But spiritual mastery is the ability to become conscious of the emotion that's rising up and to stay above its pull so that you can then choose to act and think more wisely. Now, you're not going to do this 100%. But what I found is that I can catch it more quickly, and these emotions don't last as long. And you're always going to make progress if you don't judge yourself and beat yourself up in this, but you allow yourself to learn step by step. And when you observe yourself in a negative light, forgive yourself. Allow yourself to feel those feelings. Don't make them wrong. You're just a human being having a personality experience and then rising above it. We've all had these kinds of thoughts and behaviors, and we all want to change. And the way to change them is to become aware of them. You can't change your behaviors and your thoughts until you're aware of them and make a decision to change. So change happens only when you can see what's there, and by not judging what you're experiencing, not beating yourself up for it, you will allow yourself to see more and more of it. The less judgmental and harsh you are with yourself, the more compassionate and gentle you are with yourself, the more your awareness will come forth, because it'll be safe for your feelings to come up. And then you can use your meditation to strengthen that observer self and your journaling to process and to forgive it. Let's talk about the role of meditation in this process of unfolding our observer self. Meditation is the way that we support the development of our observer self. Every time you meditate, you're observing your thoughts as they move through your mind. So you're practicing your observer self, as well as bringing in the light and the energy and the consciousness that will support your intuition in seeing what you need to see and doing what you need to do. Some of your thoughts will simply move through and you'll just observe them without any thought particularly. But then other thoughts will linger. And then you can take those lingering thoughts, those ones that you might feel stuck in, or they just persist. They seem to loop around and be in a habitual pattern. And when you're in those kind of thoughts that don't just move through your mind, that's the time to get out your journal, be vigilant, and write down and release those things that you'd like to change. And releasing these thoughts will be the key to releasing the resistance that you've had to change. I had somebody ask me once, well, how do I know I'm in my observer self? You're in your observer self when you're aware of your emotions, but they're not running you. When you're aware of your judgments, but you're not triggered into judgments. As I said a couple of weeks ago, you are not in that. That is not you. And you can become detached with compassion, compassionately detached from that person or that situation, or ultimately from yourself. And then you can take a higher vantage point, a higher directive, and you can see what's taking place in your life from above. That's another visual image that Jane has used. It's like reconnaissance. You can see what's going on the personality level as if it's on the ground, but you're rising above. But your meditation moves you into that higher consciousness from which you can make wise decisions using your observer self. So then you're living from your higher self rather than the emotional, fear-based ego personality self that lives down on the ground. So this week, as you observe your emotional responses in every situation, there's little tricks you can do to help yourself in those situations. Just say, thank you, God. Just say thank you when you see it. Say, show me more. I want to see more. And whenever an emotional surge rises, this week I've been saying, I am forgiven. And that allows me to look at without judgment or guilt or blame or resentment. I can look at these things that come up. And what all of this does is it helps you to stay focused and present in the now moment and to live your life from a mastery place rather than just being the victim of various circumstances, emotions, and beliefs. Your observer self is setting you free. And in a sense, your observer self is a choice you make every moment of your life. Once you activate your observer self, you've got a choice. You can either come from that observer self, cultivate it, become aware of it, or go into unconsciousness. And it is a real choice to stand back and watch what you are doing. Your observer self is going to tell you a whole lot about what's going on inside you. This last week, I had a situation in which I was very upset because I thought somebody was controlling me. And I realized nobody can control you, not really. It's just an opinion somebody had. But what was going on in me as I did the work was there was a part of me, a controller in me that wants everybody else to follow their rules and has an agenda for everybody else to follow because it's, quote, right. And that part of my subconscious mind was the part that was sticking up against this other person. In other words, I wasn't ultimately upset with their behavior. I was releasing my own negative attitude of control and wanting everybody to follow the rules and do as I say. And once I realized that, I was aware that this was buried in my subconscious mind in lifetimes in which I was in positions of authority where I wanted other people to follow the rules. I was the self righteous priest or the power hungry leader who wanted everybody else to jump to my tomb. And as I realized that I could disentangle myself from that situation, that other person was almost superfluous in the situation. Whatever they do, it doesn't really affect me. I've been in situations so many times where I've just needed to say, show me what I need to see here. One time I walked into an environment where I was going to speak, and somebody asked me where I was going to stand, and I told them where I was going to stand. And man, I had a couple of people come up to me and just really let me know with no uncertain terms that that was wrong, that I needed to stand behind a lectern because they were used to somebody reading notes and having a certain kind of presentation. And I realized that when I said, when this was going on, I just silently got into my observer self and said, what do I need to see here? And I realized that what I needed to do is just be in a sense of humor. And, since I was a guest, I said, well, I'll stand wherever you want me to. It's fine. And of course, that didn't seem to placate anybody, but it didn't matter. I No harm, no foul. When you watch yourself, you can see how to get free from these situations. Jane uses the analogy that if your room is on fire, you need to be in your observer self so you can see where the exit, where the door is. And the door in this situation was not taking it personally, not taking it personally. In this situation, I was able to stand over to the side of the lectern and to connect with people, and it was fine. But what I found was I needed to forgive myself for the pattern that I saw in another person who was pushing my buttons. And that door that is the exit door in the burning room in Jane's analogy, is the door of forgiveness of self, ultimately of self. Yes, I forgive the person who's doing whatever it is that I'm taking offense at, but the deeper truth is always that there is something in me that is rubbing up against, that is pushing up against that person. Otherwise, it wouldn't bother me. As I used in the analogy a couple of weeks ago, it's trading the Velcro that gets stuck for the Teflon, which just lets things slide off. This is called working in the best interest of your soul. And one of the things Jane's going to share in the video we're going to watch is that at first she was worried that if she was in this consciousness that didn't take things personally, that she would become a victim, that it would somehow make her weak, that people would take advantage of her. But the truth is exactly the opposite. You become the person in the driver's seat because other people can't ultimately push your buttons. Well, they can push your buttons, but you don't stay pushed. You get out of it by being in your observer self and realizing that you can become quietly effective. That's a term that I'd heard somebody use many years ago. Becoming quietly effective means that I don't have to stand up and say, you can't tell me what to do, but I just quietly observe my feelings and I know what to do. And in that situation, I just stood over to the side and it was fine. Jane was afraid people would take advantage of her. And then she realized that they'll actually take advantage of you less because you're not getting your buttons pushed. You're more clear minded and more capable of setting appropriate boundaries when you need to set boundaries, of saying something if there's something to say. But there's a huge and significant difference I found between boundaries and walls. I used to think I had good boundaries, but what I really had was walls, walls that defended myself, defenses against whatever was going on. But actually, the best boundary is to be in my observer self, to be fluid. And most of the situations I can laugh off with a sense of humor. 90% of these situations are not things that I need to confront and stand up and I'm not going to let this person push me around. One time it came to me, don't stand up to anyone, stand up for yourself. And standing up for myself is becoming quietly effective and not taking things personally. The serenity prayer has helped me a lot. But the serenity prayer for me is a 90-10 proposition. And let me explain this. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. That's 90%. I cannot change the attitudes, beliefs, and emotions of the people who are pushing my buttons. They're in whatever state of consciousness they're in. 90% of the time, those are things that I cannot change. And so I need to deal with them with serenity. And then the courage to change the things I can, that's 10%. 10% of the time, there's something for me to do, but only 10%. I used to think it was more like 20-80. It's really 90-10. It's only 10% of the time that I really need to act. But then you ask yourself, well, how do I know the difference? The last line is the wisdom to know the difference. How do I even know? By cultivating your experience and your connection with your higher power through meditation and developing the discernment and practicing with your observer self the discernment that shows you, oh, this isn't for me to fight. This person is having road rage with me. I don't have to set them right and let them know that I'm actually following the law here. I mean, I used to have that attitude, and once in a while still do, have the attitude of, well, I'm following the rules. They're breaking the rules. I'm going to get it across to them. That's one of those 90% accept the things you cannot change and realize that this is not something that you need to do. And this is true with your relatives and your friends and your coworkers and your bosses and your neighbors. 90% of the time, I made a mistake a few months ago where I left a recycling bin that I carry outside the recycling. I had gone off to dump some garbage in another container and then just forgot it. And the person in charge of the condo association was incensed about it. But I didn't defend myself. I just apologized. And we ended up being friends. It wasn't worth it. Now, there are situations where you do stand up, but those are the 10%. And that's the wisdom to know the difference. And it is discerned through developing your intuition, through your meditation, and being in your observer self. And what does all this do? It erases a whole lot of karma because I probably owed some karma to that woman. I probably owed some karma to that person who wanted to tell me where to stand. I know this may be a little advanced. It might seem a little strange to you, but ponder on it for a second. If all of our interactions with people are based in lifetime after lifetime after lifetime of karmic situations, we have a lot of karma that needs to be forgiven. And once I realized that I had a lot of karma that I needed to forgive, I stopped taking things quite so personally. Oh, I still take things personally, but I catch it faster. Jane talks about her experience in this video. She talks about her experience of her daughter who was murdered and how she dealt with this situation through forgiveness, yes, of the person who did it. But that led her to a deeper forgiveness, a forgiveness of herself. And what she doesn't say in this video is that once she had journaled out the forgiveness of herself, They were able to find the dental records that were necessary in order to release her daughter's body so that they could hold the funeral. In other words, she did the inner work and it freed something up in the outer. And as she stood back and observed her karma, she forgave it all. And most of all, she forgave herself. Every day of your life, you get your buttons pushed by something. When I watch the news and I see something political, it's usually my big button that has gotten pushed over many years, many decades, has been that one within me that thinks that somebody's abusing power, that they're abusing their authority. And then when I did my inner work, I realized that I, in many lifetimes, abused power. I abused authority. And I was carrying the karmic burden of that tribal chief who ruled with an iron fist and destroyed his tribe, or that priest who was corrupt but wanted everybody else to follow the rules of the church, or the one who was the leader or the ruler who abused the power in one way or another for their own advantage. Now, I still have the same political opinions that I had, but I'm not as triggered by, and notice I say as triggered by, because I'm still working on it, but I'm not as triggered by these situations. Those are part of the 90% of things that we cannot change. We can't change what's on the news. It already happened, and nobody's asking our opinion. But these things weigh so heavily upon our souls because we're carrying memories that are lodged in our subconscious mind, unconscious memories of situations that are being triggered by it, pieces of Velcro that get attached to circumstances in our lives. Now, it isn't necessary for you to remember all your past lives, to remember or know exactly the scenario that you're dealing with, but it is necessary and it's liberating. It's freeing to know that the cause of this is somewhere else. As somebody once said, I am not upset for the reason I think. I am never upset for the reason I think. And once I realized that I carried guilt from lifetimes, or perhaps I caused the death of another person, and in this lifetime, I wanted absolution subconsciously and found myself getting entangled in karmic situations. But what I discovered was I had to give absolution to myself. And once I did that and began that work, I was able to not be attached to what somebody else was doing. That was part of the 90%, the 90% which I have no control over. I accept the things I cannot change. In this lifetime, you have numerous opportunities to forgive others, but every one of them ultimately is the forgiveness of yourself, of something in your subconscious mind. Again, you may not know consciously what it is you're forgiving, but these opportunities for growth peel back the story and they reveal what needs to be revealed for you to release the energy of them. You don't have to know consciously that, in the year 1614, you were a peasant and this and this and this happened. That is not necessary. If it is part of your journey, that will happen. But what you can know is I'm not upset about this situation for the reasons that I think I am. These opportunities peel back the story that you're in to reveal what needs to be revealed so that you can heal what needs to be healed. Jane has asked me and many other people so many times, who started it? If I come to her and say, well, this happened and this person did this, and she would just stop but who started it? You really don't know who started it. In lifetime A, this person did this. And then in lifetime B, you did that back. In lifetime C, they were in the other position. And you were batting it back and forth in a game of karmic tennis where each of you were hitting the ball back and forth. You know, I zapped you, you abused me, I killed you, you cheated on me, this happened. And we go back and forth in these situations. And instead of seeing them as detriments, we see them as opportunities. And we begin to see them as a chance to erase the karma that we carry in our lives. And in the video, Jane very briefly touches on something that's challenging, but inspiring. And that is that you also have a chance to help others erase their karma. That is, she forgave the person who did this to her daughter. She said, I was letting that person, that burden off of that person, that they certainly will have their karma and they will learn the way they need to. But she was releasing some energy, and energy is really what karma is. Energy is fluid and it's malleable. And your karmic energy that keeps you stuck in these situations also is there for other people. Karma can be changed. Karma is made up of the thought stuff of the mind, clothed with the emotional energy of that situation. And as you forgive another person, you're helping to set them free. That's why on the cross, Jesus said, Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing. If they were conscious, they wouldn't do it. And by doing that, he was allowing a certain layer of karma to be lifted off of them. We can get out from underneath this burden of karma and forgive us our debts as we've also forgiven our debtors, is because as we forgive other people and free them from that karmic burden, we're forgiving ourselves and freeing ourselves. Life is all about forgiveness. It's probably the most important thing that we do in this lifetime. We have so many opportunities for growth each day, and forgiveness is always the answer. As Jane has said, if love is the answer, what is the question? And love is expressed most powerfully and dynamically in your life as forgiveness. And I've heard her say, if you don't know what to do, forgive. And if you don't know what to forgive, just say a prayer, I forgive whatever this is. I am willing to forgive this. And if you find yourself resisting the willingness, pray, I'm willing to be willing. And if you can't do that, just say, I'm willing to be willing to be willing. Let there be just a crack in the door, because grace will open up the door the rest of the way. In this difficult world, with all of its problems, each step you take to disentangle your ball of karma releases an energy that helps other people to release theirs. It frees others to release theirs. I had a situation once where I talked to someone and they told me I needed to forgive another person. And that began a realization that I needed to be forgiven. And one healing after another took place. It all rolled out. It's like the rubber bands coming off of the ball of karma. I was freeing myself, other people, they were freeing other people, and there's a butterfly effect, which you've probably heard of, where the little butterfly's wings flapping creates something on the other side of the galaxy, some effect that we are not even aware of. And that is very, very true. And so we need to get in touch with this aspect of ourselves, this observer self, and meditate and connect with that higher self each day, and take that energy each day from our meditation into our observer self. In a sense, your observer self is a living meditation each and every day of your life, because you're taking that awareness of meditation into your daily life. What we're doing here on planet Earth is we're all doing a work of healing together. We're all doing an inner work of setting ourselves free. And so as we listen to the video that we're going to listen to now, Jane's going to share with us how our observer self sets us free and what we need to do in terms of forgiveness, and how there's a relationship between yourself, your observer self, and your karma. So let's listen to Jane in this video together.
And I've talked a lot about the ability to be the observer of self. When I begin standing back and watching what I was doing, that helped me a lot. Because I couldn't entangle something that I was in the midst of. When you're in the midst of the fire, you don't know how to get out of the fire. But if you watch yourself in the fire, you know where the door is. So, you know what the door is. The door is forgiveness. The door is working in the best interest of your soul. And it doesn't make you, because you forgive, doesn't make you a panty waste. That everybody takes advantage of you. That's what I thought. Boy, if I forgive and I'm going to be a nice guy, boy, everybody in the world is going to take advantage of me. No, that's not what happened. No, that's not at all. Because I was able to forgive and let go, I was able to erase a lot of karma. And I think that maybe you all were in I did a talk with Greg when I talked about my daughter who was murdered and that I had to do forgiveness work. Forgiveness, forgiveness, forgiveness. I think that was 60 million points for me. But that forgiveness, ultimately, after the forgiveness was all done, and this I didn't say that Sunday, but I will tell you that as I stood back and looked at my karma with that daughter and karma with who I was, and I had to forgive the man who murdered her. And when I'd done the forgiveness work, I realized that I was forgiving myself, because in many lifetimes before, I was a soldier and I killed. I was in the Crusades and murdered children that got in my way without a thought, without a care. And that weighed so heavy on my soul. I felt so guilty about that lifetime after lifetime, I tried to do things to forgive myself. The guilt was so heavy. And this lifetime, I had a daughter that had that happen to her. And my opportunity was to forgive her, forgive him, and I was honestly forgiving myself at the bottom of it. Do you follow what I'm saying? It peeled back. It peeled back to who I really was forgiving was me. Because I was the one that started this whole walking, rolling. And I got to erase all kinds of karma. I got to erase all kinds of stuff for myself. And for that man that murdered her, I was able to erase some of his so that maybe he will come back as a better being because of it and do something very creative with his life, do something good, instead of having come back and be killed himself for doing that. If he learns from his lesson, he can maybe be a great musician or a great teacher and do something good for the world, rather than having to go back and do something like that in order to pay back that karma. You see, there's a law that rules us, whether we like it or not, it's here, and that really pissed me off when I found out that I was underneath this law and I didn't know how to play the game. There's something really disgusting about being in a game you don't know how to play. And then you always are losing. And boy, there was a difference when I started to know that forgiveness is the answer. So I hope with tonight I may have shed some light on some subjects that maybe helped you. I certainly hope so. This is part of what I love to do. I love to help souls to work in the best interest of their soul. Because as I help you to learn more about who you are and you advance in your consciousness, we all win. We all win. I'm in here to win, and I'm in here to help you win. I want you to win on this game and entangle this little ball. You're meditating. That's extremely, extremely important. You connect with your higher self when you meditate. And when I say those words on a Tuesday night, I mean that from the very essence of my soul. I know that I in you and you in me are together moving up in the energy of who we are. And that's the greatest blessing of all. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for just being my friend and loving me as I love you. And I will see you out there as we go forth with the spirit of excitement.
And as you use your observer self to erase those sticky points, those things that allow your buttons to be pushed, you are making a choice in every now moment. Every day you have the choice, am I just going to fall into unconscious patterns here? Or am I going to move into my observer self and erase hidden pockets of karma, hidden aspects of my beingness that I'm not aware of? And so move your evolution of your soul faster than all the good times, all the blissful experiences. Forgiveness of this old energy through using your observer self is the fastest way to move forward spiritually. And we want to support each other on Thursday nights as we do our spiritual work together with the question and answer support group. It's at 7 p.m. Eastern. The link is in your chat room if you're watching this live, or you can go to the website, centerforenlightenment.com, cfenlightenment.org, and you can click on the lessons and you can find the link that will take you at 7 p.m. Eastern to the question and answer support group. Also, there's a link there and also on the live stream for your donations to support the Center for Enlightenment so we can continue to do this work of moving souls in consciousness. And so this is going to be a week of using our active observer selves and using these spiritual power tools in new ways. And so it's going to be a grand adventure, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on Thursday night or next Sunday. Bye for now.